where we have a lease purchase deal. The seller has to get some money out of the sale of this, but they wouldn't get very much money if they did a traditional sale because they owe just about as much on the house as it's worth, or maybe they only have 5, 10, 15% down, and the market has gone down in some markets. So we'll use this as an example. We learn of a beautiful house. Beautiful house is in a beautiful neighborhood that is worth about $300,000. The seller explains they've got a job opportunity across the country. They've got a mortgage of $265,000. Kind of a tweener, right? $265,000 mortgage on the house remaining to be paid. That seller doesn't want to use a realtor. They don't want to give up a lot of time, energy, money, just so they could pay off the bank, pay off the closing costs, and pay off the realtor fees, and then walk away with very little, which certainly would happen if you sold a house for $300,000. It took you, 3 months to get it under contract and another month to close it. I mean, you're not going to be getting much more than what you have to pay the bank, which is $265,000. Now, this particular seller has a company that's willing to pay relocation costs. And as long as eventually the seller is going to get something, they're okay with not getting any money now. Taken from a hybrid of many actual examples of this exact same thing happening over the years, with numbers that are a little bit easier to consume. So an example of a lease purchase, when the seller has to get some money out of the house, because sometimes they're going to be like, man, I'm not just paying off the bank. I put money into this thing. I got to get something out of it. I might not have to get it right now, but you out your mind if you think I'm getting nothing. You might get some attitude like that, even though they may get nothing if we walk away. But they would get very little on a traditional sale, if anything. So we talk to the seller, we learn what they're willing to do. They end up agreeing to lease the property to us. They end up agreeing to give us an option to buy during the term of our lease. Yes, you can still do this in Texas, Don. And the deal ends up being, we got to pay them $10,000. We've got to pay off their mortgage, but we don't have to do any of that until we're ready. The seller just wants to move on with their life and know that they got like 10 grand sitting in the bank of their house. We pay off their mortgage and we owe them 10 grand. Now our lease, now this you couldn't do in Texas, Don. We can't have a lease for 3 years, 6 months. Yes, there are disclosures that you can put in place to extend it. I'm suggesting you might not want to do that. Generally, you don't want to, in Texas, you generally don't want to do lease options more than, you're regulated in not doing more than 6 months unless you have particular paperwork in place that is quite, I'm going to say draconian. That's why I don't like it. So that's why I gave you the advice that I gave you last night, which is just do owner financing. Don't mess around with this. And if they won't owner finance it, just get the lease option and a sign out of it. Okay, so the rest of this example really applies to all other states, not Texas. But we're going to have a lease for 3 years because we're not in Texas, and we're going to have a right to renew it for an additional term. Well, if our first term is 3 years and we have a right to renew it for an additional term, that's 6 years. Now, our monthly payment to the seller is going to be exactly what their outgo is, which is $1,650. You with me? Now, seller has to get some money out of this. They got to get some money out of this. They're not going to let us just pay the loan off and be done with it. So we're going to take this property that's worth $300,000. We're going to go ahead and market it the same way we would market just about any house, as a lease with an option to buy. And we're going to lease option it out at $310,000. The plan is we collect a $10,000 non-refundable option fee, which converts to a down payment if they exercise their option, which would mean they'd owe us How much? 300. Oh, I said 10. I meant to say 20. We collect a $20,000 non-refundable option fee, which converts to a down payment upon exercise of the option, meaning they would owe us how much? 310 minus 20 equals 290. We give them 2 years to make that decision. People are lining up, clawing at us over that deal because it's a sexy deal for people who don't qualify for a loan and they have no other game in town. We are the only game in town. Very few people are going to do this for them. Why do you think it's hard for you to get deals? Think how hard it is for someone who's not savvy like we are and trained. Really hard to find these deals. So when we put it out there, we're the game in town. The game. The only game. They want to live in a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood. They want to be part of the American dream. They have money. They have income. They don't have the ability to satisfy the underwriter's need to sanctify them so that they can eventually sell that loan to an investor, hedge fund, some other kind of fund, securitize the loan, that kind of thing. But we're going to give this buyer 2 years and we're going to run it to them for $1,950. Now, if our buyer exercises their option, they owe us $290. Why $290? Because we sold it for $310. We took 20 grand up front. They owe us $290. They've been paying us $1,950. They can walk at the end of the 2 years. They can buy it at any time during the 2 years. If they buy it at any time in the 2 years, they owe us $290. Y'all with me? Good. How does this kind of deal work out? Well, we've made 20 grand up front on the option fee, haven't we? It's an option fee unless it converts. But that 20 grand goes in our pocket. We're making $300 a month for 2 years. We got $1,650 going out, $1,950 coming in. $300 a month for 2 years. If it goes 2 years, by my math, 300 times 12 months, which is a year, is $3,600. $3,600 times 2 years is $7,200. So we got another $7,200 coming in. Now let's say our buyer exercises their option at the end of the term. They're going to have to bring $290 to close. We pay our seller's mortgage off, which is now paid down to about $260. Remember, they only owe $265. And out of that $290 versus the $260 that goes to the bank, there's $30 left over, right? We already agreed to pay 10 grand at some point when we exercise our option to buy. And remember, we had a 3-year term plus an additional term. So we're going to give them their 10 grand when we pay off the underlying loan. So we got $290 coming in, $260 to the bank, 10 to the original seller, so $270 going out. $290 in because our buyer gave us 20 on a 310 price. The other $290 comes in, we give $270 out, and depending on what our closing costs are, which will depend on what state we're in, we're going to keep the difference of, let's call it 15 to 20 grand as our last payday. Now, why? Why is that good for that seller who got a new job that was paying his relocation? Immediately, the day they meet this Coke bottle glass wearing, New York Yankee hat wearing, 2024 World Series champion likely, Father Mucker, sorry for cussing, they can stop making those payments and get their debt relief immediately. They don't need a property manager or a company to help them with that. They can leave the house. They can leave it as is. No repairs to make. They still own the home. We're doing it on a lease with an option. And when it sells the traditional way, in other words, we're exercising our option because our buyer's exercising their option, they're going to get their cash and their debt is going to be paid off all at once. Why do they want to do that? Well, they continue to get the tax benefits of owning the home. They own it. They don't have to be concerned about due on sale clause. They still own it. They didn't transfer the deed. They don't have to fear that their credit's going to be impacted. They're going to be able to show income to offset debt if they needed new credit because we're leasing it from them. And they're in a good position. What about our buyer? The buyer who wants the American dream so badly. And you won't understand this until you get out into the market and offer these houses and you have people cry on the phone when you choose, somebody else over them as second, third, fourth place. You won't understand this until you have people begging you, like literally begging you. And if you're in Vegas, offering to do things kind of untoward. These buyers want these houses. They get to move into a beautiful house right away that they're not qualified to get. Bank ain't going to qualify them. I'll qualify them. If they were to depend on a bank and a realtor, they can go, sit, and spin. Because they ain't getting the house. They depend on me, they got a shot. That's why people cry when we don't choose them. Because we were the only game in town. We were their only hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi. When they get the house, the person that we choose, the couple that we choose, the family that we choose, they've actually got loads of time. Folks, when people start talking to you about June 5th, 2025, it's June 5th, 2024. As of today, on June 5th, 2024, doesn't June 5th, 2025 sound like a long freaking time from now? How long does June 5th, 2026? You could do anything. You might be able to become an astronaut between now and June 5th, 2026. What if you gave them 3 years? June 5th, 2027? Man, people really, really know that they could do whatever needs to be done in that kind of a time frame. They have loads of time to get their down payment up, to get their credit up, to get their income up, to get to the point where they pass the sniff test with the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac type underwriters who are going to decide if they get a bank loan or not, particularly when we put them in our VIP credit repair. And if they do the things we ask them to do, they will qualify most of the time. So these folks have loads of time and they know it. They want this house. They want this school district. They want to, be out on the front edge as far as keeping up with the Joneses, impressing their spouse, having their kid where they want their kid to be, not in some apartment home, playing in some community that's dangerous, having the white picket fence, mowing the lawn, making it look perfect. You give someone a couple years' time, very aspirational. And people are willing to put a down payment in. They know they're going to get credit for it if they do the things that they say they're going to do, which is qualify for the loan, and they love you for it. That's why people cry when we don't give them the house. That's what I'm trying to tell you, folks. It's the worst part of this whole business is the, I say there's no crying in baseball. There's a lot of crying in this business, but in a different way than what you expect. The first couple times you have people cry when you don't give them the house, that's when you realize what a tremendous service you're actually doing. Not just for the sellers, in terms of getting them out from under debt, but also for the buyers who have no other play to get the house. And that is what, for me anyway, to a great extent, obviously the money is number one, and number two is it's so much easier to call sellers when you know that when you do get the deal, after some people saying there ain't no way they're going to do this or they're going to do that, but you go through a few of them, and the next thing you know, you have a deal, and now you're in a situation where you can really help people. You're helping the seller, you're helping the buyer, and you're helping yourself. You're also helping a realtor, a mortgage broker, a contractor, a title company. You're creating a cascade of economic activity that you can be extremely proud of. This is a great business. But why is it good for the buyer? Well, they got loads of time to get their credit repaired. They can meet the bank underwriting guidelines for their eventual purchase. And then they aren't even guaranteeing that they're going to buy it. They've got optionality. They like the house. They're not sure where the market's going. Is it going up? Is it going down? They don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows. So they're scared. So they monitor the valuation before they commit to making a 30-year loan. After all, when people buy houses, that's what they're actually doing. They're signing up for a 30-year payment plan. Nobody gives a crap about the price. They give a crap about what the monthly payment is on that 30-year payment plan that they're signing up for. At the end of the day, people feel like they're achieving the American dream without the downsides. This is why this is good for buyers, folks. Now, why is this tremendous for us? Y'all need to know this, right? Because this is the inspiring part of going through what you have to go through to get these deals, so that you can be in a position where you're helping sellers, you're helping realtors, you're helping title companies, you're helping a whole lot of people that play a role in the economic landscape. And you're helping buyers get into houses where they otherwise have been shunned or can't get in. Well, we get and deserve to make a little profit from that. What does that profit look like? Well, we made money right up front, didn't we, from our option fee? Sure, we apply it to the price if they exercise their option. That's fair. If they don't, it just stays as a fee. We collect that. That's not going back. We're going to make money monthly on the payment spread. Well, monthly, if you give them 2 years, is what? Month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6, month 7, month 8, and so on 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 and so forth. That's a lot of money that you're making monthly, where you're not even responsible for the maintenance and the repairs. You don't have any tax ramifications on the option fee unless it ends up being defaulted. You're holding it, basically, because it's thought of as being applied to a down payment, but you've already collected it. We don't have to go taking unnecessary risks, getting new loans, putting HELOCs on our houses, even getting private lenders or hard money lenders or debt service coverage ratio or DSCR loans. We don't have to do any of that. We just leverage our brain, strike the deal, go out to the market, see what the market brings, because we're controlling valuable real estate when we leverage our brain instead of our creditworthiness and instead of our treasure. Don't you love this business? We didn't have to use our own money. We didn't have to use our own credit. We didn't trigger any due on sale clause provisions. And we stayed away from junkers. And we worked on desirable houses that are move-in ready. That's why I love this strategy.